Ever find yourself thinking, I've done the work, I've tried everything, why hasn't it changed? But underneath that calm, something feels off, like a quiet frustration or this dull belief that maybe change just isn't possible for you. That's not self-awareness, that's a trained emotional pattern, and it's one of the most common ones I see. Let's talk about learned helplessness. And why it's not who you are, it's what your nervous system has rehearsed. Today we're naming something that hides in plain sight, especially in high-functioning people. It looks like logic, sounds like acceptance, but what's really happening is withdrawal from influence. Let's break down the emotional pattern that tells your system why bother. Learned helplessness starts as a perception, usually something like effort doesn't lead to results. That perception triggers a subtle emotional drop, low energy, vague frustration, a flatness that you can't quite name. From there, the thoughts follow. I've already tried this. This stuff works for other people, not me. Maybe this is just who I am. The action? Disengagement, delay, avoidance disguised as rest. The state being trained over and over is resignation. Not because you're weak, but because your system has learned action equals disappointment. This pattern doesn't scream. It doesn't say, I quit. It whispers, let me just take a step back. I'll give it time. Maybe I'll focus on other things. On the surface, it looks calm, regulated, rational. But the emotional intensity underneath is real. It's just quiet. A client once put it like this: I don't really chase transformation anymore. I just try to be okay with what is. But what was being trained wasn't acceptance. It was numbness. Not by choice, by repetition. Every time they met a challenge, hit resistance, and felt defeated, their system stored that, encoded it, replayed it, until futility became the baseline. This isn't something you made up. For a lot of us, learned helplessness was modeled. If you grew up watching someone shut down under pressure or default to there's nothing we can do when life got hard, your nervous system didn't just hear the words, it felt the state underneath. You learned how to respond to challenge before you even knew what a pattern was. A flat tone, a shrug, a change of subject. These small emotional cues became training reps for your nervous system. And by the time you're an adult, that resigned state feels normal. Not because it's aligned, but because it's familiar. Here's where this gets critical. Even if you know you're not stuck, even if you understand the problem logically, if your nervous system keeps rehearsing the emotional experience of futility, that's what gets trained. Every time your body slumps when plans fall through, every time your breath shortens when someone criticizes you, every time your mind spins with what's the point, you're reinforcing the same inner pattern, not through thought, through emotion. So this isn't about being more positive. It's about disrupting what your system is unconsciously repeating. So let me ask you, have you ever heard yourself think, this always happens to me. I don't have it in me today. It's probably not worth it. Maybe it's just my personality. These thoughts aren't the problem. They're the evidence of the emotional state you've been practicing. And they're training your system to meet challenge with collapse, even when you want to grow. If this is landing, hit subscribe. I drop videos each week to help you train your inner world with structure and clarity, so you can stop reacting and start choosing how you show up. Let's be clear, grit doesn't fix this, because most people who have learned helplessness already work hard. They just carry emotional patterns of tension, urgency, or overwhelm while doing it. So they do the thing, but underneath they're still practicing fear or frustration or scarcity. And the nervous system encodes that as the cost of trying. Eventually, it burns out, and the system says, never again. So what gets trained next? emotional disengagement. That's not progress, that's collapse with better branding. Let's reframe trying. Trying isn't pushing through. It's maintaining alignment inside yourself while life throws the usual chaos. Someone I worked with once said, "I've tried to fix this for years." But what they had really done was react the same way every time. Panic when things got hard, spiral when someone pulled away, collapse into doubt when results didn't come fast enough. So even though they were putting in effort, they weren't training a new state. They were rehearsing helplessness under the surface. When we started shifting the internal response, breathing differently, thinking differently, staying in command even when the pattern kicked in, that's when things began to move. Not because the world changed, because they did. If you're hearing this and thinking, this feels uncomfortably familiar, that's okay. You're not broken, you're not weak, you've just been training a pattern that no longer serves. And once you know that, it becomes trainable. Here's what works: structured emotional repetition. You train your nervous system the same way you train a muscle, not just with intensity, with consistency. That means choosing stability over spiral, even when you don't feel like it. Redirecting thought when collapse wants to creep in. Breathing deeply when you usually check out or self-soothe. One client used to disappear every time they felt overwhelmed. They'd ghost on commitments, stop answering messages, tell themselves they just needed space. But what they really needed was training. We worked to build a new pattern, stay engaged even in tension, choose presence instead of withdrawal, interrupt the thought, "I can't do this," before it became emotion. It didn't happen overnight, but over time, the baseline shifted, because that's how patterns change, through practice. What emotional state are you practicing over and over without even realizing it? And is it aligned with the person you're committed to becoming? If you're ready to stop managing symptoms and start training a steady, resilient inner state, I've built a system for that. It integrates perception, emotion, and nervous system, so you don't just understand your patterns, you shift them. The link's below. I also share practices weekly on Instagram at Mike Wang Coaching. And if you want more depth, you can join the newsletter below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.